have been me. Stop the killing, or it could have been you. Revolution for me and you. Carry on the fight. Cannot breathe without the truth. We must not be blinded. My people fight strong for liberation. Our love is not a crime. Our power is stronger than any gun. We're fighting for what's right. Revolution for me and you. Carry on the fight. Cannot breathe without the truth. We must not be blinded. My people fight strong for liberation. Our love's not a crime. Our power is stronger than any gun. Fighting for what's right. Fighting for our freedom. Say the name, say cold, cold. Say your need. Now say the peace. Now say the fighting for our freedom. Fighting for our freedom. Fighting for our freedom.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sigwa, a cultural night of remembrance and resistance. I'm Julie Hamora with the Malaya Movement National Secretariat.
This the anthem, freedom fighting, we gon' get it for the peasants and the workers that struggle for a living. Pull up on your block, it's megaphones and picket signs. Visualize liberation like a new pick design. Cause when we ain't unified, we fall victim to divide and conquer tactics of the system. The fascist state on some gang shit killing. They gon' try to silence us, but the whole world listens. We out to plead, God stop the killings, cause they fear this resistance, so they gunning down our children. They gooned up, call them government villains. Catch me building with my people, all up in your village. I'ma ride for the justice we all wanna see. For my comrades, cause I'm in their families.
So yeah, I just wanted to welcome. We have more people
We all
coming in.
wanna see a day struggle to be free. We just wanna be.
This is our time. Together we make history. If not us, then who will make the future that we wanna see? We got to make the sacrifice and take on the fight. So straighter than to give our lives to see our people free.
Hey, listen up, y'all. My people fed up, tired of this damn system. Bloodshed, too many tears. Stop the killers. Living in poverty, fed.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Not pause the music. Okay. Sorry guys. We're letting everybody trickle in. And admitting some folks in the waiting room. If you guys are joining us, let us know where you're joining from and say hi in the chat. Awesome. Hey, Joyce from Austin, welcome. Okay. All right. Oh, wow, Kira, NYC, Colorado, wow. Thanks for joining. How exciting. Okay, maybe wait for 2 more minutes and then we can begin. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, we'll get started. I hear a little bit of an echo. Yeah, so we'll get started shortly, but just know that
At the end of this cultural event, we're going to have an amazing Q&A portion with the artists that we have today so that we can ask all of these important questions and engage critical conversation around martial law in the Philippines, as we know that art is such an integral part of resistance, especially in the struggle for human rights and democracy in the Philippines. And throughout this period of time, feel free to respond. To the chat, greetings, any Q&A that you have, direct them to the Q&A account in the chat panel. And we'll definitely be respectful of artists, our participants, the MCs for today, and especially for our artists who are so willingly and incredibly are sharing their artwork with us today, which is really brave and bold to do. So yeah, thank you for attending. We're going to play a little bit more of the I Chirp Stop the Killings album, and then followed by a live performance. So yeah, go ahead, Nap. You can play a few songs.
Profit over peace. The hood can't prosper. Stealing from the poor while the rich pumping dollars. From Luzon all the way down to Mindanao. Every barrio and village yelling.
We want them out. The drug war, killings of indigenous leaders, dropping bombs over schools and shooting down our teachers, selling out our people and the land for the paper. Greedy money makers overthrow the dictator. Revolution's the answer, no hesitation. Peace can't be done without the liberation. We gotta act as one, can't lose a generation. Marching through the streets, protesting, no resting. Unites the working class and the rest who are oppressed. From the countryside to the cities, we can't neglect. So what you waiting for? It's about time to rise. People power number 3. Yeah, we living in the prime.
No time for the dark side lies and fear. Cause so many gave their lives in the last 50 years. Shed tears cause they shed blood. Spread that red love. Guess what? We all gonna pick up what they left us. That's me and you too. Everybody recruit. New people make moves. Don't be scared about things you can't do. You can learn if you try, figure out how to. Make an impact back in the Philippines. Cut that military aid
like a guillotine.
International, building solidarity. Oppressed people, white, brown, and ebony. Marcos couldn't stop us in the 70s. Now the OG's still fighting past the 70s. You could join next year if you're 17. Live your life to the fullest, fight till we set it free.
This is our time. Together we make history. If not us, then who will make the future that we wanna see? We got to make the sacrifice and take on the fight. It's greater than to give our lives to see our people free. Together we make history. If not us, then who will make the future that we wanna see? We got to make the sacrifice and take on the fight. It's greater than to give our lives to see our people free. Together we make history. If not us, then who will make the future that we wanna see? We've got to sacrifice and take on the fight. It's greater than to give our lives to see our people free.
Wow, that was an amazing song. So again, welcome everyone. Wanted to reiterate some of the event considerations. So we're going to be respectful towards the participants, artists, performers, and MCs. So if you have any questions, please direct them to the Q&A account in the chat panel. Thank you for attending, and y'all, please welcome. You're welcome to keep this chat lively. So thank you for showing up. To really kick things off, we are about to introduce Kayamanggi Folk Rock, a Pinoy rock band exploring Filipino cultural identity through original all-Tagalog Pinoy rock compositions. Pocoy Severino expresses his meditations upon his culture of origin in the context of a global community of cultures.
Introductory slide right there.
and the enigma of nationalism. They've also been described in Dirty Linen Folk and World Music magazine in Baltimore, Maryland, as obliquely political and colorfully poetic. Tonight, they will play Sabi ni Pedro, or in English, Pedro said. So let's give it up for Kayumangi Folk Rock.
Sabi ni Pedro, dito na tayo, dito sa kanto, tumambay. Maghintay tayo, makinig tayo, hanggang sa dulo ng buhay. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Ang bawat tao may pinag-arang, may pinaglaban sa gubat. Nandito tayo, may mali-mali, ngunit tuloy pa ang araw. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Sabi ni Pedro, dito na tayo, dito sa kanto, tumambay. Maghintay tayo, makinig tayo, hanggang sa dulo ng buhay. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Ay nako, ay nako, ay nako, just go. Ang bawat tao may pinagharang, may pinaglaban sa gubat. Nandito tayo, may
That was incredible. Salamat Kokoy Severino and the Kayumangi folk rock. I think that we couldn't have opened up with a better cultural piece, and that energy tonight is what we will carry with us throughout the cultural night, and that we will carry with us as we continue the struggle for human rights and democracy in the Philippines. And special shout out to the flute section. That section was my favorite personally. Yes, get it. And to formally begin, welcome to Sigwa, a cultural night of remembrance and resistance. Again, my name is Julie Hamora from the Malaya Movement National Secretariat.
And I am Royal of the Filipinx Artists of Houston, and we are your MCs for this evening. Our program today will include a variety of artists, musical performances, poetry readings, and video art, followed by an artist panel discussion and calls to action. With Duterte's anti terror law intensifying globally, the democratic civil liberties and the livelihood of the Filipino people are rapidly disappearing as evidence in the consistent attacks on the people via harassment, threatening, and assassinations. Extrajudicial killings, disappearances, lack of food and medical resources, and red tagging of human rights defenders and activists become the weekly news and concerns of the people. President Duterte has once again failed to serve the people, even with his emergency powers, mocking medical students and professionals to choose another career path in response to their pleas for better health care and proper safety measures for the frontliners. Peace advocates and faith leaders are threatened, killed, or called terrorists.
And though democracy continues to be stripped from the people, the Filipino people remain resilient and continue to resist against this fascist dictatorship, and consistently supported by their kababayan here in the United States, along with their allies. With the anniversary of martial law this past September 21st, we gather and harness the fighting spirit of Filipinos and allies alike so as to focus our attention and struggle against the rapidly shrinking democratic space remaining for the Filipino people. This cultural night aims to educate about history, human rights, and democracy in many different mediums. And right now in your chat box, you will find a link to sign the Declaration of the People's Demands versus Duterte's Dictatorship, co-written and co-signed by the Malaya Movement and Bayan USA. And if you're not in this Zoom and you're on Facebook, please visit malayamovement.com/peoples-demands. And in these demands, we have to scrap Duterte's Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, most commonly known as the Anti-Terror Law, to ensure free mass testing, healthcare, and livelihood for the Filipino people in the face of COVID-19, not militarization, ensure the rights, welfare, and protection of Filipino migrant workers, pass the Philippine Human Rights Act, which was just introduced last week by Representative Susan Wild of Pennsylvania and 24 other representatives across the United States, and expel the Philippine National Police out of the US.
So, as part of tonight's objectives, we are fundraising for our organization and for human rights in the Philippines. Our fundraising project for tonight is a poster made by my good friend Killjoy. Killjoy's work is grounded in honoring the earth and seeking environmental and social justice. Her work is an interpretation of world mythology and a study of ancient symbols. The poster has Sigwa's artwork and is captioned Makibaka, Huwag Matakot, or Fight, Be Not Afraid. Makibaka, Huwag Matakot is the battle cry of the movement against fascist dictatorship in the 1970s and the 1980s in the Philippines. With the rising tide of fascism, attacks against democracy and sovereignty under the Duterte administration, this call once again becomes relevant for the Filipino people defending human rights, democracy, and sovereignty. This poster will be a 3-color hand-pulled screen print on craft speckle tone French paper, and the measurements are 16 by 20. And for fundraising, the poster is at a flat rate of $40, which means it's already included in shipping is already included. Posters will be printed on October 1st and immediately shipped out after. And finally, proceeds will go towards Malaya Movement's human rights work. So please check out the link in the chat box right now and place your orders to support the Malaya Movement's work and struggle for democracy, liberation in the Philippines. Maraming salamat.
Yes, get that poster. And continue to promote fundraising and concrete ways that we can take action throughout the program. So yeah, throughout the chat, we'll be posting this frequently. And if you want to get involved in the Malaya movement or the Filipinx Artists of Houston and to support campaigns that we're waging to support human rights in the Philippines, like the Philippine Human Rights Act, you will find links in your chat box to get active today. And so for now, let's welcome our next performer, Teresa. Teresa Rosol Knowles is a Filipina Memphian and a community organizer for the Malaya Movement's Colorado chapter. Her poetry and dramedies intend to decolonize consciousness and empower the collective. She is going to perform a poem entitled The Science and Metaphysics of the Revolution in Our Blood. Let's give it up for this incredible performance that is about to happen with the most energy, I guarantee you. Let's give it up for Teresa.
It's a revolution for us to know our worth. When your cup runneth over with unconditional self-love, you embody a truth that connects to the highest frequency. We can become magnets for what we need. But the split Pinoy collective consciousness is the reason why we don't have millions here with us this evening. Why? How are we the 9th largest diaspora, but we are missing too many of our people alongside of us to fight for our fellow Filipinx human rights? But you know, how successful can we really be to fight for others when most of us aren't built yet with the foundation that is ruthlessly in love with being everything that is our identity? If we knew exactly who we were and our worth, we would never be taken advantage of. Cognitive dissonance, this is not anything that happened overnight. Our collective power has been a threat for over 500 years. Today's terror law, silencing the masses, that ain't no new tactic. By the 18th century, all true Tagalog texts were extinct. So any information that we know about ourselves and our blood is an act of resistance. Do you really know what you're worth? Do you know what you're made of beyond the mechanics? Do you know that you have access to realms of mystics just by being a child of divine love and divine light? Science says blood can be divided into 4 parts, but I'm gonna just go over dalawa. First, plasma. It's made of such junks as salt, sugar, water, the bittersweetness of our existence, our love, our tears, our tsunamis, the Pacific Ocean that is within each of us. Plasma transports hormones that tell our body what to eat, how to drink, how to lust, how to handle pressure, how to expend our energy. But you know, the thing is, only certain cells are designed to receive these messages. As we know, we got a little bit of our own Filipino Candace Owens, but y'all assume best intent, right? With all things in life. Maybe some of our fellow Filipinx, they just don't really know exactly everything that's happening. This is nothing new. We had Marcos shut down Mosquito Press. Now today, Duterte closing ABC. So thus continues fake news since 1972. Some cells can listen, some sell out. I will never understand how Ferdinand can sell out a first world country. The Philippines is rich in coconuts and cancer curing soursop and the best coffee, the best bananas. Y'all don't even understand. We have the best plantains on this planet. I don't understand how a Rodrigo could ever consider making the Philippines China's province. Please just, you know, white blood cells make up 1% of our blood's volumes. That's a part in your body that can fight off sickness. Now that may seem like we're up against a lot of odds within our bodies, but that 1% actually is everything you need to fight off disease. And we need everything, because you might have noticed the world is a little bit sick. And the truth is, we fear change, despite what opinions say online, or the folks that perpetuate violence in their silence. I digress. It's just, I believe that we are afraid of change because it's easier to settle for pain, because it could be worse, because it's not as bad as others. The ways that we too cannot listen when we are selective with our hearing. It doesn't matter if folks are houseless down the street, or if people are in poverty 7,000 miles across the sea. There is no such thing as you and them. There is only us. So justice for how many more martyrs? For the weight that we inherited, for not yet being enough of a balikbayan for our blood, our families, they do not deserve to idolize our Western lives while they don't get to watch their babies grow up because they can't afford a third world country where we can go and retire early. The others, they are mirrors, and I dare say of our future, because you know what? If over 30,000 Filipinx can continue to get murdered in the Philippines, and only one cop thus far has been reprimanded, you best believe that we felt Black America's slap in the face when Breonna Taylor's judge continued the disgrace. Our blood can be divided. So we got to do our best to remember the magic that is within us, how the slightest shift in our blood can emanate new energy. Epigenetics has proven that we can restructure our DNA. If you get sick, you don't quit. You live life to the fullest, child. Pay attention. If we can transform our bodies, if neuroplasticity has proven that we can rewire our brains, don't you dare ever say that we cannot change this place. So fight. Be not afraid. Makibaka, one matakot. You got millions, each and every one of y'all, millions of ancestors running through your blood. So fight. Makibaka, one matakot. Fight. Makibaka, one matako. You remember your worth. You remember what you're made of. And you remember what the people deserve. Makibaka, one matakot. You better remember, please remember. Every time that you pray and every time that you say, fight, be not afraid. Makibaka, one matakot. Makibaka, one matakot. Makibaka, one matakot. Maraming salamat.
Wow. Salamat, Teresa. That made my heart stop. You were dropping so many facts next to your poetry. That was a ritual. Thank you. Hello, mystical. You're a mystical, magical person. Wow. Whew. Okay, I need a minute. Thank you so much, Teresa. That was really heart-stopping. Next up is Tabs Ponciano from the Malaya Movement National Secretariat. Tab's artwork here is entitled Bye, Bye, Bye. This piece was created for a larger collaboration project with Malaya Portland and Bayan Portland, where they sent virtual postcards to the Duterte regime via social media. Postcards were filled out by various members of the community denouncing the recent passing of the anti-terror law. Tabs, as a digital artist, really actually honed her craft by practicing design and illustration techniques with the overall theme of Aus Duterte, started back in 2018.
Yeah, so as everybody is taking in this incredible artwork by Tabs, I will definitely say that hands down, they have the most incredible, the notable out there today art. So please do follow Tabs for their incredible artwork. And so next on our cultural night, we'll have a performance by Tibok Malaya, which is a Filipino, Filipina, Filipinx cultural workers collective fighting for freedom through music and creative expression. This song, People's Pressure, is a call to action to build people power, defend, and rise up for grassroots democracy. The song shows that our fight for liberation is intertwined and connected to our collective liberation. So let's go watch this video and music video by Tibok Malaya.
People will rise, people will rise, people will rise, people will rise. People's pressure, everyday people rise against the fascist state. So many have died. People's pressure, know what we're fighting for. He signed the terror law, he wants control. Duterte struck war, corruption ignored. His only defense, calling us terrorists. We're not the ones who should be criminalized. He's starving the people, taking innocent lives. Build the resistance, our people will rise to defeat Duterte and the fascist state. Fight, fight now. People on the streets, ang tao. Workers rise up now, ang bayan. People on the streets, bangon mga kababaihan. People on the streets, ngayon defend the land, lumalaban. People on the streets, students fight, take back your education. We're not the ones who should be criminalized. He's starving the people, taking innocent lives. Build the resistance, our people will rise to defeat Duterte and the fascist state. People will rise, people will rise, people will rise, people will rise to love for the people. Your fighting spirit dares you to care for the people at the edge of the fight. And this dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. Ang tao ng bayan, ang tao ng bayan, ngayon ay lumalaban. Pressure, people's pressure, pressure. Ngayon ay lumalaban.
These are all so good. Like I feel so energized. That was Tibok Malaya. Oh my god, like somebody's gotta do my job for me. I'm gonna go cry for a second. I'm just kidding. So we're doing good on time. We are at our first 30-minute mark. And before we move to our next set of performers and artists, we would like to mention again and plug Malaya's fundraising effort featuring my good friend Killjoy's design, Makibaka Huwag Matakot. The poster again is at a flat rate of $40, including shipping, and all proceeds go to the Malaya movement's human rights work. Another call to action that we have for tonight is to support and order A Legacy of Resistance, a compilation of songs during martial law. It's a revolutionary songbook which includes Tagalog and English lyrics plus guitar chords. This songbook is published in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the First Quarter Storm. So please check your chat box for the Google form and place your orders. And as we always say, never again to martial law, never again.
Yes. So our next performer, we have Rachel Gonzalez. Rachel Gonzalez is a figurative and abstract contemporary visual artist educated and experienced in both architecture and fine art. Informed by her architectural background in designing physical spaces, her paintings also serve as containers or portals for the human experience to be felt. Her life's work focuses on reclaiming the female gaze as a powerful way to see beyond form. She graduated from Rice University with a bachelor's in architecture, is a member of Filipinx Artists of Houston, and currently practices out of her own studio at Sawyer Yards in Houston, Texas. Rachel's work here is entitled We Will Not Be Silenced. It's a 5 by 7 mixed media on paper that was created in response to voter suppression and the countless number of Black lives lost under white supremacy and existing power structures in the US. This piece really opens up a conversation as to how police brutality, state violence, and repression here in the United States is also paralleled with the police brutality and the systemic inequalities that we see back home in the Philippines. And we could certainly entertain and engage more in this conversation as we come over to our Q&A panel later in the program. So please stay tuned and enjoy this piece of artwork.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This is pretty powerful. And she is an FXAH, y'all. So we're looking for people. Again, that's her artwork entitled We Will Not Be Silenced. Our next artist and performer is Jomay Santos. Jomay is a community organizer with Malaya Movement San Francisco. She believes in the power of poetry, and she believes that poetry is not only a tool for surviving, but ultimately for healing. Jomay sees poetry as a tool to link struggles against imperialism and capitalism, and ultimately to bridge communities together in the fight for liberation. So tonight, Jomay will perform two poems. The first one is untitled, and the second one is titled Family Tree. Jomay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you to Malaya, Texas, and all the other organizers for this event tonight. Her worry comes out in anger. I know her words mean to be tender, but this tough love is all she knows. Dear Mom, I forget that your hands helped hold the sky, the same one you and Lola prayed to, but your prayers were left unanswered, so you left for the promised land, arrived to a nation only to be met yet again with the same unanswered prayers. See, I have realized freedom is not passive. It does not happen to you simply by chance. Liberation isn't a game. I've been trying to convince my mom I'm not playing around here. This is a battle. I was bred into resistance. Such unrest is passed down through the same lineage she and I come from. This fighting spirit was no accident. Mom, I only know how to fight the same way you know how to persevere against the violence of fear. We both know the history of those who hid, those who were captured, and those murdered. When I tell you silence is not a catalyst for change, I need you to listen. These chants echo through the hallways in the building of tomorrow. Now is the time. The clock is ticking. But my people, we know detonations. Such destruction is being weaved right now. They thread repression into law in an attempt to clothe their tyranny, subject the people, strip them of their rights. Fear tactics do not work here. Our battle cry tells us not to be afraid. Makibaka, wag matakot. It is our mantra, our point of gravity, our anchor which calms this boat of calamity. The tides of change grow stronger every day, and these waves were always yours to ride. So that's the first one. Just gonna jump into the second one. This one's titled Family Tree. My parents traveled across the world to birth me into opportunity. They thrust the cradle basket forward, hoping to bypass the woes of our homeland. Their American dreams remain encased in menagerie. It is known to crack and shatter under pressure, and all we've ever known is pressure. Our bodies, strained from the weight of expectation, pigeonholed into model minority, my family had no blueprint for how to navigate this life, so they became their own prototype. More error than trial. The odds were always stacked against my family. especially because Uncle Sam likes to play a rigged game. It was always a gamble, but you've got some audacity to call their bluff. Think they'd bet tomorrow on a whim? They came here to win. My parents aren't afraid to go for broke. They taught me, break yourself over this country, as if resilience is sustainable. Struggle is not a family heirloom. Stop treating it as such. My parents did not journey here. They were intentionally ripped from their country, forced migration by design. I have realized the family tree is set within a burning forest. I am not the ash or the debris or even the seed that comes after. We are the ones engulfed in the flames right now. Do not wait until the smoke settles to fight this fire. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That was incredible, Jo May. And, thank you for reminding us that liberation isn't a game and that we as Filipinos are bred into resistance and that we have generations and generations of resistance in our blood. And although we're commemorating the 48th anniversary of martial law in the Philippines, let's remember that us as Filipinos, like you said, in your family tree, in generations, that when the Filipinos come together, we are mighty and we've toppled dictatorships and we will again. So let us continue to be brave. Makibaka wag matakot. And so next up, we have Alpas Migrante. Alpas Migrante is a group of migrant musicians based in the Bay Area. The group performs progressive, environmental, and historical political songs. Songs are composed and arranged by Ed, and English translation is done by Kix. We'll watch their song called Sigwa about the people's cry for peace, justice, and end to oppression. So here we go, Alpas Migrante. And for those who don't speak Tagalog or Filipino, we will be periodically putting English translations into the chat. Thank you so much.
Marami pa bang buhay na iaalay? Kay rami-raming kabuluhang nagaganap, kasakiman at karahasan ay laganap saan mang sulok ka mapadpad. Kay rami-raming pinapaslang sa ating bayan, mga sugat, galit, poot sa iyong dibdib. Pinamay makayanin katahimikan kapag
that song was very nostalgic of my youth. I used to listen to a lot of folk songs, Tagalog folk songs. So that was Alpas Migrante. And before we proceed, we just want to check in with the audience. How are y'all doing? Give me a thumbs up or something in the chat letting us know you're good still. And yes, that reminds me of Asin as well. Saw that post. Awesome.
Hello. Maganda umaga, Daning.
Oh,
Daning, welcome, welcome. You'll be up next.
sandali lang ho, okay? Okay, so thank you again for attending Sigwa. Remember to order the poster for fundraising efforts. As we get halfway through our program, we're going to watch a memorial video created by Hias Saturay and May Decina to the melody of Awit ng Mortal, played by activist musicians in the Philippines. The video details and commemorates the Filipino activists, student leaders, peasants, artists, journalists, community organizers, and indigenous leaders who were tortured and killed during martial law. This is a painful and poignant reminder and response to the ongoing historical revisionism being implemented that aims to paint martial law as more benevolent than it actually was. During this night of Sigwa, let us remember all the Filipinos who are being threatened to be erased from history books. This gesture of remembrance is already a powerful act of resistance in itself. Marcos was never a hero. These Filipino people are. Never again to martial law, never again.
Wow, thank you so much to Hias and May Decina for that really powerful video. Feeling really emotional right now. So if everybody needs to take a collective breath together, we can do that. And let us never forget the martyrs of the people, the lives lost under Marcos's dictatorship. And today, may we also call to presence, may we name some names under the Duterte dictatorship of the lives that we have lost. There have been over 328 victims of extrajudicial killings, mostly peasant activists, those fighting for their rights to their land, indigenous communities. So we never forget their names. People like Karandi Achanis, Zera Alvarez, Carlito Badion. So we remember those names too. And we say never again to martial law. So with that said, we're really excited for our next speaker. We will be hearing a statement from KMP, which is the Kalusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or the Peasant Movement of the Philippines. KMP is a democratic and militant movement of landless peasants, small farmers, farm workers, rural youth, and peasant women in the Philippines. And this is really incredible. It has an effective leadership over a total of 1.3 rural people with 65 provincial chapters and 15 regional chapters nationwide in the Philippines. KMP is guided by the rich lessons of their mass campaigns and struggles. It unites with all oppressed and excluded classes, fights for the interests and aspirations of the entire Filipino people. KMP continues to consolidate and defend its gains and victories while advancing the peasant struggle against class exploitation and national oppression. Danilo or Kadaning Ramos is a peasant leader who started getting involved in the movement for freedom in 1983. In 1984, he became an official of the Bulacan Peasant Alliance. Since then, he has been organizing full time. He was the former Secretary General of the Central Luzon Peasant Alliance and of the Asian Peasant Coalition. He currently serves as the chairperson of Kalusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas. And today we are honored to hear from Kadaning Ramos, the chairperson of KMP. The floor is yours. Welcome, Kadaning.
Hello, magandang araw sa inyong lahat dito sa Pinas. Magandang gabi sa mga kasama at mga kababayang nasa Estados Unidos. Isang karangalan ko po na maging bahagi ng paggunita ng Malaya Movement at sa pangalan ng KMP ng Magsasakang Pilipino, nais naming ipahayag ang aming pagpapahalaga. Pasalamat sa inyong pag-imbita. At kanina habang sinusubaybayan ko ang presentation at mga pahayag, ngayon pa lang nais ko nang banggitin ang pinakamataas na pagpupugay sa lahat ng biktima ng karahasan ng Estado sa panahon ng diktadurang Marcos at sa lahat ng biktima ng pampulitikang pamamaslang sa ilalim ng rehimeng Duterte. At malakas ang aming panawagan ng hustisya. Hustisya para kay Caranda Lechanis, hustisya para kay Sara Alvarez, at hustisya para sa lahat ng biktima ng pampulitikang pamamaslang ng Estado. At gayon din malakas naming panawagan ang palayain ng lahat ng mga bilanggong politikal na ngayon ay mahigit 600. Maraming salamat po muli sa pag-imbita at gusto kong banggitin na ang issue ng mga magsasaka, ang issue ng mga manggagawang agrikultural at manggagawang bukid sa Pilipinas, lalo pa ang panawagan namin na genuine agrarian reform and national industrialization ay twin forces na magpapaunlad sa mga magsasaka, manggagawang bukid, manggagawa at mamamayang Pilipino. Kaya nagpapasalamat kami sa mga kababayan natin dyan, mga kasama na kahit nasa labas ng bansa ay kaisa namin sa pakikibaka para sa pambansang kalayaan at demokrasya na may socialist perspective dito sa Pilipinas at yung mahalaga niyong papel. Nais ko lang banggitin ang dalawang mahalagang usapin na una, nagpapatuloy at tumitindi ang problema sa lupa, pagpaslang at ang pidal at malapidal na pagsasamantala sa kanayunan sa ilalim ng rehimeng Duterte. At sa kasalukuyan, kahit pa ang mga magsasaka ay mayroong Certificate of Land Ownership Award, Emancipation Patent, CLT, ay patuloy na pinapalaya sa kanilang lupain. Sa darating na October 21 ay 48 years na ang PD27 at mahigit 30 years, almost 32 years ang CARP, pero hindi ito nasolusyonan ang matagal ng problema ng kawalan ng lupa ng magsasaka, manggagawang agrikultural, gayon din ang usapin ng peasant women at ng mamamalakaya ng Pilipinas. Kaya ang aming mahalagang panawagan ay ipatupad ang tunay na reforma sa lupa at pambansang industrialisasyon. Partikular po ang esensyal na laman ng Comprehensive Agreement on Social Economic Reform na mahalagang usapan sa pagitan ng NDAP at ng GRP. So yun po yung una at gusto kong banggitin na ang matinding tinatamaan ng pasistang atake ng rehimeng Duterte ay ang mga magsasaka, katutubong Pilipino, agricultural workers na nagtatanggol sa karapatan sa lupa at tumututol sa mga programang kontra mamamayan sa ilalim ng build ng rehimeng Duterte. Kung saan po nagaganap ang malakas na pagtutol at paglaban, ay doon napakatindi ang pasismo ng Estado. At katunayan po sa mga nakaraang buwan ay patuloy ang pagbomba ng AFP sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa. Partikular po nung mga nakaraang buwan sa Surigao del Sur, ang tinatamaan po ay ang mga magsasaka, katutubong mamamayan sa sakop ng Lianga, San Miguel, Marihatag, Tago, San Agustin at iba pang lugar sa Caraga region. Kaya po nais naming banggitin ang itigil ang militarisasyon sa kanayunan at dagdag pa sa ilalim po ng COVID-19 pandemic, sa halip na solusyonan ng gobyerno ang kahilingan ng mga magsasaka, paunlarin ng produksyon, ang tugon po niya ay military solution o solusyong militar, hindi solusyong medikal. At sa halip na ang ayuda para sa magsasaka at mamamayan na ibigay, kinukurakot pa. Ito po ay tampok una sa ipinangbayad sa PPE. Pangalawa, last year po more than 15 billion ang kinurakot ng PhilHealth sa pamumuno ni CEO and President itong si bigla akong nakalimutan yung pangalan. Sorry, isipin ko mamaya. Tapos yung isa pang General Morales sa aking pagkatanda. Pangalawa, alam niyo po, sa gipit ng kalagayan ng mga magsasaka na dapat paunlarin ang agricultural production, cash assistance, hindi bababa sa 10,000 pesos per farmer, 25,000 pesos para sa agricultural production at least mga 25,000 pesos para loan, zero interest, dagdag sa produksyon. Alam niyo po, nung nakaraang April at Mayo, ang 1.8 billion pesos na nakalaan para sa fertilizer na 1.8 million kabans, alam niyo, ang presyo po ng urea fertilizer per bag na 810 to 850 pesos ay ginawa pong 950 pesos. Pinalabas ng Department of Agriculture. Kaya po sa aming kwenta, hindi bababa sa 271 million pesos ang overprice. Kaugnay po doon sa fertilizer. Kaya po, kulang na nga ay kinukurakot pa. Bukod po doon sa ayuda na 5,000 pesos per rice farmer, gusto kong banggitin na sa atin pong bansa, sa Pilipinas ay may almost 2.7 million rice farmers. Pero ang tinarget lang nilang bigyan ng tulong na 5,000 kada magsasaka ay more than 941,000 rice farmers. Kaya hindi nabigyan yung mga rice farmers, coconut farmers, at even agricultural workers sa ating bansa. Kaya po, kaugnay nito, nais kong bigyan ng diin na kung bakit ito nagaganap ay dahil mismo sa policies and program ni Duterte. Ang isa po dyan ay ang Executive Order number 70, ang Whole of Nation Approach. Pangalawa po, yung Memorandum Order number 32, kung saan nagresulta ito ng Sagay 9 Massacre, Gihulungan 6, Negros 14, na pawang ang pinatay ng Estado. Sa pangunguna po ng AFP at ng PNP ay mga magsasaka, mga sakada, at even local government units sa Negros Oriental. At ang masakit po na naalaman nyo noong August 10, madaling araw, brutally killed ang Deputy Secretary General ng KMP, si Karen Dalechanis. Siya po ay peace advocates at gayon din po siya ay opisyal, tagapangulo ng Anak Pawis Party List. Brutally killed at klaro po, state forces ang pumatay sa kanya. Hindi po totoo ang pinapalabas ng PNP na Malayang binuksan yung kanyang pinto at gusto pang palabasin na siya ay susuko at ang pumatay ay kanyang kasamahan. Napakalaki po itong kasinungalingan. Ang may kagagawan ay ang state forces. At malakas po ang panawagan namin, hustisya para kay Karandi, hustisya para kay Sara Alvarez, iba pang biktima ng pampulitikang pamamaslang. At gusto po naming pasalamatan in behalf of KMP, pasasalamat po sa Migrante USA, particular po sa ating minamahal na Bernadette Herrera, ang chairperson ng Migrante USA, at si kasamang June Cadiz, na naging bahagi po sila ng conveners ng JEDJA, Justice for Echanis, Justice for All, at lahat po ng tumulong at sumuporta sa ating mga kababayan dyan, simula po nung nakaburol hanggang sa panahon ng kanyang paglilibing. Naniniwala po kami na malaki ang ating magagawa. At gusto ko pong banggitin para sa inyo nandiyan sa Estados Unidos at sa labas ng bansa, sa mga lugar pong nagkakaisa ang mga magsasaka, mangingisda, agricultural workers at sakada, nananatili po kami sa lupang sinasaka. Napataas ang presyo ng mga produkto tulad ng palay, gulay at iba pa, napaba
Did we lose them?
Oh God, Danny. You're muted po. Can
Hindi
you
ko po kayo
Okay. So, gusto ko pong sa huling bahagi ng aking mensahe ay nais kong banggitin na mahalaga po ang pagtutulungan natin ng mga Pilipino na narito at nandyan sa labas. Sapagkat isa pong magandang balita, ang mahigit 600 miyembro ng European Parliament ay nagpasa po ng resolusyon na dapat imbestigahan at managot ang ginagawang kampanyang tokhang at extrajudicial killings ng rehimeng Duterte sa mamamayang Pilipino. At gayon din po yung pagpapalaya sa mga bilanggong politikal, specifically Senator Laila de Lima, pagpawalang kaso kay Maria Ressa, pagbabalik sa ere ng ABS-CBN. Gayon din po ang 45th General Assembly ng United Nations Human Rights Council based in Geneva na malakas po ang panawagan. Kaya po tingin namin, una, napakahalaga ang kilusang masa, ang mass movement. Pangalawa, ang Broad United Front at yung pong pagtutulong-tulong nating kampanya. Naalala ko po kung bakit napawalang sala ang Morong 43, kung bakit nakakulong ngayon ang si General Palparan, ay dahil po sa pagkilos ng pamilya, buong organisasyon at sa loob at labas ng bansa. At bilang panghuli, gusto ko pong bigyan ng diin na ang issue ng mga magsasaka ay issue ng taong bayan. Kaya po mahalaga yung ating pagtulong-tulungan, yung ang kampanya po natin, no? Sa ngayon, sa darating pong October 21, ay pagpapatindi ng kampanya para sa tunay na reforma sa lupa, pagkain at hustisya. At ito po, yung isa pong pinapatampok natin na panawagan. Ito po ay inihanda ng amihan at ng RUA, so Land, Food, and Justice. Justice for Randall Echanis and Sara Alvarez, justice for all victims of extrajudicial killings under President Rodrigo Duterte. Magsasaka kami, hindi kami terorista. At naniniwala po kami na sa ating patuloy na pagsasama-sama at pagkilos, magtatagumpay ang bayang lumalaban. Tandaan natin, kahit pa may anti-terrorism law, kailangan po tayong makibaka, huwag matakot, tumindig at ipaglaban. We believe the people united will never be defeated. Long live international solidarity. Mabuhay po ang migranteng at naniniwala at tagumpay ang bayang lumalaban. May hangganan ng kasamaan, mabuhay po kayo, tuloy ang laban hanggang sa tagumpay. Marami pong salamat sa pagkakataong imiligay sa akin. Sa pangalan ng KMP, maraming salamat po sa inyo. At muli, pagpupugay sa mga biktima ng pampulitikang pamamaslang. Pagpupugay sa mga martir ng bayan at sa partikular pong ito, ang mga healthcare workers, pagpupugay sa kanila, kasama po sila Dr. Raul Hara, na isa pong makabayang doktor na nag-ali ng buhay para sa bayan. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po kayo.
Kadaning, maraming salamat. Alam ko po na umaga dyan sa Pilipinas, so salamat po na nakasali kayo sa amin, sa event namin at nakatawag po kayo. Kadaning is on the front lines with peace advocates, farmers and activists in the motherland. So he sees the horrors that are happening in the Philippines right now. So it's really good and it's a pleasure to have him make a statement and join us here in our event this evening. So I wanted to remind you all that the performances will be on the malayamovement.com/Sigwa by tomorrow. And for our next set of performers and artists, we have Edwin and Janice. Edwin and Janice grew up during martial law and were involved in the anti-dictatorship efforts in their teens. Together as a couple and now based in Dallas, they make music that promotes love for the people and for the motherland. We will watch their performance entitled Halina. So let's give it up for Edwin and Janice.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Janice.
Si Edwin.
At narito po kami upang makiisa sa pag-aalaala sa ating kasaysayan bilang mga Pilipino. Ang aming awitin ngayong gabi ay isinulat ni Jess Santiago at ito ay mga pangkaraniwang karanasan ng ating mga kababayan. Ang kanilang karanasan sa pakikibaka at sa kung paano nila itaguyod ang kanilang pamilya at ipaglaban ang kanilang karapatan. So, pakinggan po natin ang mga kwentong ito.
Si Lina ay isang magandang dalaga, panggabi sa isang pabrika ng tela, sumapi sa unyon, sumama sa welga, biglang nagkagulo, nawala si Lina, nang muling makita'y hubad at patay na. Halina, halina, lamitan ng bangkay at sa ating puso'y hayaang humimlay si Lina.
Isang magsasaka, si Pedro Pilapil, walang kaulayaw, kundi ang bukirin. Ngunit isang araw, may biglang dumating ang saka ni Pedro, kanilang inangkin. Tumutol si Pedro at siya'y binaril.
Halina, halina, at sa ating puso'y hayang maghasik ng punla si Pedro Pilapil. Sila Aling Maria'y doon nakatira sa tabi ng isang bundok ng basura. Ngunit isang araw, binuldoser sila sapagkat darating ang mga turista. Nawalan ng bahay ang isang pamilya. Halina, halina, at sa ating puso'y ipagtayo ng tahanan sina Aling Maria. Halina, halina.
Maraming salamat.
Wow, that was incredibly beautiful. Maraming salamat, Edwin and Janice, for really showing in your song the realities of the everyday Filipino, in our urban poor communities, our peasant farmers who are asking for their most basic necessities, the right to the land. Um, and as we know, the more seeds that we plant of resistance, that we will harvest these gains, that we will continue to grow no matter how many times the state tries to silence us, no matter how many times the state represses us. With each killing or martyr of the people grows tenfold in its place. So may we continue honoring the legacy of those we've lost. and we continue the resistance. So thank you so much, Edwin and Janice. And for our next artist, we will have Denise Flores. Denise is a 2-year-old and born in California and partly raised in Georgia. She is a self-taught artist who creates surrealism with current life events around oneself and each other using uncommon imagery within the subject. Her family is from El Salvador, and she will present her graphic entitled A Piece of Hope. She created it to express solidarity with the Filipino struggle for liberation. And again, we see the importance of international solidarity among the struggles of all oppressed peoples around the world as we fight for human rights, democracy, and sovereignty in our homelands, and freedom from state violence and repression. Thank you so much, Denise. Check out the artwork.
Wow. I'm always really touched by the solidarity all across peoples of all races and creeds and belief systems. And this art proves that we are all one in our struggles and happiness and joy, etc. So thank you, Denise, for that. Now we will hear from Joy Barrios. Joy Barrios serves as a lecturer at UC Berkeley after working as associate professor at the University of the Philippines. She is the author of several books, among them To Be a Woman is to Live at a Time of War, and From the Theater Wings, Grounding and Flight of Filipino Women Playwrights. She has won national literary awards and was among the 100 women weavers of history chosen for the Philippine Centennial in 1998. She received the Towns, which is the 10 Outstanding Women in the Nation Service Award in 2004, and the Balagtas Lifetime Achievement Award for Filipino Poetry in 2016. Tonight, she will perform her poem entitled Litany of the Seeker and Ilocula, Ilocano Dracula. So once again, let's welcome Joy Barrios.
Hi everyone! I'm so honored to be here. Kumusta po kayo, Kadaning? So, I'm going to recite two poems. One of them is Ilocula, which comes from the street play Ilocula ang Ilocanong Dracula. You know, thousands of people were detained, arrested, tortured during martial law. I was not one of them. I was a street theater clown. And so my poem is about that experience, draws from that experience of street theater to talk about the comeback, the always pending comeback of the Marcos family. Isang tula kay Ilocula, ang Ilocanong Dracula. Nagbabadya na naman si Ilocula. Ang Ilocanong Dracula, wala siyang kamatayan, kaya't maging sa pagkakahimlay ay may panata. Babangon siya, magbawasipas ng kapa, ilalantad ang pangil sa madla. Ito ang banta, matakot at manginig, umuungol-ungol ang aso sa gabing malamig, ang simoy ng hangin at masangsang ang amoy ng kamatayan. Matakot at manginig, halimaw siyang sumisipsip ng dugo hanggang sa ang yaman ng isang buong bayan ay masaid. Hanggang sa mamuhay ang lahat sa pangamba at tagsalat. But no, tama na, wakasan na, never again, paalam Ilocula, hindi na kailanman. Maluwalhati ang sinag ng araw na nagbibigay liwanag sa kamalayan at pumupuksa sa vampira. Matalim ang sibat na hinasa ng paghihirap, sa iyong dibdiba itatarak. Mainit ang apoy na sa iyo ay pupuksa. Aming kinipkip ang mga baga ng himagsik kung paanong hindi nalilimot ng mga paa ang tinahak na daan sa bawat marcha. Kung paanong habang buhay ang luksa sa iyong pinaslang. Kung paanong hindi nauubos ang pag-asa sa hinahanap na nawawala. Walang sandali sa nakaraang mga dekada na bumitiw kami sa liwanag, sa apoy, sa sibat. Aming pananggalang at sandata sa bawat Ilocula at mga nagsasabampira, Walang kampon ng kadilimang mangangahas na muling bumangon. Kung ang ating armas ay tatag ng layon sa pambansang demokrasya na naon at ngayon ay patuloy na isusulong. The second poem is for the missing. I will read alternately in Filipino and English. Litanya ng paghahanap. Hinahanap ko siyang nawawala. Pinagtatagpi ang mga ebidensya, pinagdudugtong ang mga salaysay, idinudulog sa hukuman. Hinahanap ko siyang nawawala. I seek out the missing. I patch together evidence, thread together stories, present it all in the court of law. I search for the lost. Try to shrug off bad dreams, the bedroom, small and dark, the torture, the anguish, the prison cell unnamed, unnumbered. I look for the vanished. Though I can't place beginning, I start at the end. Should we trust fate? Tender the rent, broken body, we will dress the wounds, bear the shattered senses, give me the broken bones and the flesh torn. No matter that the corpse lays unrecognizable. My heart welcomes the missing, the sought, the beloved. I am not speaking soft, playing pathos, bending knees. They will be brought to right, the abductors, the takers, the men who play law like marbles, the minds that make the terror. They will turn and face us, they will face us and pay. I call out to the absent, for I am mother, I am child, I am wife, I am sister, I am here, I am his, I am hers. I will love even now, holding fast to tattered threads, binding us together, tethered to this hope. I know with my heart that the taken seek justice. Justice. Hinahanap ko siyang nawawala pagkat ako ay ina, ako ay anak, ako ay asawa, ako ay kapatid, ako ay kasama. Ako ay nagmamahal kaya't kumakapit sa kainipis na hibla na nagdudugtong sa aming pag-asa. Sa dibdib ay batid. Siyang nawawala ay naghahanap ng katarungan. Katarungan. Maraming salamat po at magandang gabi.
Maraming salamat, Joy Barrios. It's such an honor to have you here. You have such a powerful way of using words and metaphors to articulate our people's resistance and oftentimes the pain of the struggle that the Filipino experience and the freedom that we all yearn and fight for collectively in ways that oftentimes political speeches at protests or rallies don't have the power of doing. So thank you so much for always lending your words to the powerful people's movements. And all right, so that marks our first hour of Sigwa. I hope you all are not just enjoying all the amazing cultural performances tonight, but most importantly, are agitated by the need to fight and struggle for the liberation of the Philippines and the fight for freedom and democracy, especially as we commemorate the atrocities committed against the Filipino people over 48 years ago under the Marcos regime. We must not forget that the legacies of martial law are still being perpetuated under the anti-people fascist dictatorship of Rodrigo Duterte. And just recently, we in the Malaya movement, we released a statement on the rejection of a Duterte-led revolutionary government. We believe that the proposal for a revolutionary government is not only dangerous, but it serves as a distraction from the most urgent issues that the Filipino people are currently facing today, like the COVID-19 pandemic and the widespread loss of livelihood, among many others. This proposal for a revolutionary government aims to pave the way for unlimited powers in the hands of an already tyrannical reign of Duterte. A Duterte-led revolutionary government is nothing but a full-blown dictatorship, which he has already in itself weaponized into law with legislation like the anti-terror law, what God Downing mentioned earlier, Memorandum Order 32 and Executive Order 70 as well. So please join the Malaya movement and sign the people's demands and support Sigwa's fundraiser, which you can find these action items in the chat here today to ensure that the rights of the Filipino people are respected and that we continue our human rights advocacy to make these demands into reality.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. And as we near the hour, we are about to resume our last set of performers. So to kick that off, we have Lucy Vantes. Here we go.
Napapansin mo ba ang nakikita ko? May dalang panganib ang pagtaas ng tubig, ang hampas ng alon sa dalampasigan. Pinupukaw muli ang dating kanlungan. Ang simoy ng hangin may binubulong, humahalik sa parang at mga ukirin. Damhin mo ang daig ng piping paligid, ang tahimik na sigaw ay maririnig. Pakinggan mo ang awit ng puso nang sa bayan ay nagmamahal. Buhay may alay at kituwid, bukas ay magniningning. Sisirin mo ang ilalim ng dagat, do'y maghihilom ang malalim na sugat. Sino mang magtangka na ito'y tigahin, sila'y mabibigo dahil sa lawak at lalim. Tayong naglalayag ng sabay-sabay, may payapang pangpang na naghihintay. Ang mapagpasyang tumugon sa hamon, sa pangangailangan ng ating panahon. Kung kamatayan man ang kahulugan, di na bali yun, lumaya ka lamang. Pakinggan mo ang awit ng puso na sa bayan ay nagmamahal. Buhay may alay at kituwid, bukas ay magniningning. Sisirin mo ang ilalim ng dagat, do'y maghihilom malalim na sugat. Napapansin mo ba ang nakikita ko?
Wow, that was incredible. Salamat, Lucivantes. We will win and we will continue to fight for that brighter future for the Filipino people. And just shout out to all the performances so far. Our Filipino people are talented. It really runs in our blood. So thank you all for sharing your arts with us and motivating us to continue the struggle another day, another year, another lifetime. So thank you all. And so up next, we have a special treat. This is a piece from Vanna Algador, a high school senior who moved from the Philippines to the US 3 years ago. Vanna is currently joining and participating in groups as much as they can. And Vanna's work is untitled and describes the former dictator Marcos as a corrupt fascist thief who tortured many. So take a look at this amazing gift that was created by Vanna.
Wow. Wow, Vanna is in high school. I mean, I hope they live in Houston because they need to join FXAH. So that's amazing. Salamat, Vanna. Our next featured artist is Andrea Guerrero. Andrea Guerrero is a third year publications and printmaking student at OCAD, whose work includes visual and time based performance art and explores the fragmentation and reassembly of the self expressed through the body and its relationship to the land. She was born in Manila, raised in Nassau, and has lived in Toronto, developing her practice for the past 4 years. She was recently accepted to the Narratives Through Global Space International Digital Residency, where she will work collaboratively with students from Mapua University to create an online exhibition that will be held in January 2021. Andrea's collage is called Luhod, meaning kneel, is a poignant reminder of the People Power Revolution of 1986. The piece explores the roots of this resistance, colonialism, and the theft of nation under the Marcos dictatorship. Its message is a warning and a plea to the Philippines to remember its past, to confront the erasure of colonial wounds, and to resist the revision of history.
Wow, thank you, Andrea Guerrero. It's incredible the use of collage and how loaded the imagery and meaning is in this piece. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And next up, we have Dominique Dizon. Dominique recently became a US citizen after living in the US the last 9 years and going through this journey of falling in love with being a Filipino and the country's history. Learning to find the balance between now being an American and remembering one's history in order to fully know oneself. This song shows that although we have been oppressed time and time again, the Filipino people continue to stand and sing its song of freedom and resistance. This song perfectly captures the resilience of the Filipino people. Dominique will perform a cover of Toto Sorioso's song entitled Awit Mo'y Nandito Pa. So let's give it up for Dominique Dizon.
Hi guys, I'm Dominique. Yeah, she said everything that I wanted to share with you guys, but no, I just became a citizen, and I actually just a few weeks ago attended a Philippine Society and Revolution class hosted by one of my good friends, and learned a lot. And in like what I wrote there, that knowing your history is knowing yourself. So I just wanted to share this song because I really feel like it perfectly captures what it's like to be a Filipino. Like, we're known for our resilience, and I loved what Jo May said in her poetry when she said we were bred into resistance. Like, I literally want to get that tattooed on my skin. Okay, I'm gonna start singing that. Kahit di naririnig, tinig ko'y umahawi. Kahit di napapansin, hindi ko ay naniningning. Nabawi na ang pangamba, diwa ko'y malaya na. Dahil nalimot ko na ang bawat araw, ilang ulit na rin ako'y nasilaw. Awit mo'y nandito pa, hinila dito't saan-saan. Pagkatapos lahat ng nagdaan, awit mo'y nandito pa. Awit mo'y nandito pa. Awit mo'y nandito pa. Simoy ng hangin nagbalik, umihip ng pag-ibig sa mundo nating mabagsik. Himig mo ay nanaig, damdamin ko'y lalong tumatag, hinding-hindi matitinag. Dahil nalibot ko na ang bawat araw, ilang ulit na rin ako'y nasilaw. Awit mo'y nandito pa, hinila dito't saan-saan, pagkatapos lahat ng dadaan. Awit mo'y nandito pa, awit mo'y nandito pa, awit mo'y nandito pa. Oh, ang pagmamahal mo ang tanging kailangan ko. Ikaw ang laging nandyan, hindi mo ako iiwan kailanman. Dahil nalibot ko na ang bawat araw, ilang ulit na rin ako'y nasilaw. Awit mo'y nandito pa, hinila dito't saan-saan, pagkatapos lahat ng dadaan. Awit mo'y nandito pa, awit mo'y nandito pa, awit mo'y nandito pa. Awit mo'y nandito pa, awit mo'y nandito pa.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. Your voice and your guitar playing is incredible. It pulls at my heartstrings. And also thank you, Jelai, for uh, all the translations that you've been doing for these Tagalog songs. Um, it's really helpful. And so thank you again, Dominique. For our next artist, we have Saka. Saka is Sama-samang Artista para sa Kilusang Agrario, or the Artist Alliance for Genuine Land Reform and Rural Development in the Philippines. The active involvement of many artists and cultural workers in peasant campaigns and issues such as Hacienda Luisita, Kidapawan Massacre, La Panday land grabs, Tiempo Muerto, and peasant and lumad killings provided the spark in establishing Saka. Saka aims to link individual artists, writers, performers, and cultural groups to the peasant struggle and campaign for free land distribution, genuine land reform, and social justice. Promote continuous interaction and collaboration between farmers and artists and cultural workers through various solidarity activities and regular community integration programs. Act as a public information network and launch different cultural projects to promote peasant campaigns and expose or elucidate on issues affecting our farmers. Saka's song is entitled Pamantasan ng Puso.
Pardon us for 1 second as we get the tech up and running so we can hear this really powerful song. Okay, I think our screen sharing is having some technical difficulties. I'll try to share my screen, unless one of a member of the tech team can also share to have the PowerPoint up.
You got it. Let me look for the slides. I don't know if I don't trust my screen sharing.
Okay, I think I got it up. Hold on 1 second. Yes, thank you so much, Tasaka. I think that song is really powerful to me because there's only so much you can learn in books, right? And if we have so much knowledge, but we don't use it to serve our communities, to serve our kababayan back home in the Philippines, that it really amounts to nothing. And even if you're not book smart, if you haven't finished a college education or completed school, or the artists, there is a place for all of us in the struggle for human rights and democracy in the Philippines. And Saka's song really amplifies that call. So thank you so much for sharing that song with us. And for our next performance, we present Circa Pintig, and Pintig, meaning pulse in Filipino. They were founded in April 1991 with a mission to serve as a voice of the Filipino-American community by engaging in active cultural work, using art as a means to celebrate the community's rich history and culture. The Center for Immigrant Resources and Community Arts, or CIRCA, is a community arts organization founded in 2001 by a group of artists, educators, organizers, and activists from the Filipino American community. Today, we will watch their production entitled Game of Trolls Revisited. So here we go.
Nasa kamay natin ang tagumpay. Hindi na, huwag natin iasa yung tagumpay sa iba, kundi lahat tayo magkaisa in our own little way sa lahat, munting bagay, malaki man o maliit, basta nag-ambag ka para sa bayan, isang malaking papel mo na, role mo na sa buhay mo dito sa mundo. Nasa kamay natin ang tagumpay. Hindi na, huwag natin iasa yung tagumpay sa iba, kundi lahat tayo magkaisa in our own little way sa lahat, munting bagay, malaki man o maliit, basta nag-ambag ka para sa bayan, isang malaking papel mo na, role mo na sa buhay mo dito sa mundo. Sapagkat lahat tayo ay sinasabi nga natin, may Diyos, binigyan tayo ng buhay, gawin natin makabuluhan ito. Gamitin natin ito na makaambag tayo sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas.
Ano yun, right after nung January 1, bagong taon, meron silang tinulungan sa Tarlac na namatay na dating kasamahan nila. Ngayon nagpapatulong yung pamilya para i-claim yung bangkay. Ngayon nagpunta sila dun sa provincial office ng alyansa ng mabubukid sa Tarlac. Yung pala, sinabi ng mga military doon na kung sino man magki-claim doon o tutulong doon sa pamilya, kukunin nila, tutukutin nila. Yung ganun ba? Ngayon, yung isang staff na kasama niya, magkabady sila, nagpunta sila doon, tanghali sa palengke, habang palabas na sila, papunta doon sa office, sinabol na sila ng military. Tapos kinuha sila, since hindi na sila inilitaw. So nag-vigil kami, humingi kami ng tulong sa mga senador, lahat. Ginawa na namin. Pero hindi sila pinalitaw hanggang ngayon. So 28 years nang nakakalipas.
Wow, that was Game of Trolls revisited by Serka Pintig. And for our last performer, we have Jocelyn Enriquez. And this artist is near and dear to my heart. I actually sang this song for like a recital I had when I was younger. Um, Jocelyn Enriquez was born in San Francisco, California, and she has been widely regarded as a music pioneer, becoming the first Filipino American artist to find success in the mainstream industry. Emerging from the freestyle movement of the time, Enriquez was the first artist to sign with Classified Records and was quickly deemed by some as the queen of freestyle. Tonight, we will watch her performance, Kailanman, with her son Matthew.
Hey everyone, this is Jocelyn Enriquez with my son Matthew. Welcome to our home. I want to thank NAVCON for inviting me, as well as Malaya Movement Texas for coordinating this event, Sigwa, a cultural night of remembrance and resistance. And tonight I'm going to do one of my songs that I had the opportunity to record when I was very young. It's called Kailanman. And the reason why I chose this song is, you know, as a young Filipino, I wanted to somehow, if I ever were to get a recording contract, that I would do a song to honor my heritage. And so I hope you guys like it and this song finds you well. It goes like this. Magmula nang tayo ay nagkalayo, ang puso'y umiibig pa rin, nalulumbay sa tuwing naaalala ang lumipas natin, ang mga mata ko'y laging may luha. Hindi kaya mayroon ka ng iba, sabihin mong ako pa rin ang iniibig mo. Kailanman ikaw lamang ang aking mahal, kailanman ang tangi kong pinagdarasal. Minsan pa sana'y mayakap ka, patutunayan na mahal kita. Kahit nasaan ka man naroon, nais ko na iyong malaman, hindi kita magagawa na aking kalimutan ang lahat sa ating munting nagdaan, ay turing kong tanging kayamanan. Wala nang hihigit pa sa ating ginintuang pag-ibig. Kailanman ikaw lamang ang aking mahal, kailanman ang tangi kong pinagdarasal. Minsan pa sana'y mayakap ka, patutunayan na mahal kita. Kailanman ikaw lamang ang aking mahal, kailanman ang tangi kong pinagdarasal. Minsan pa sana'y mayakap ka, patutunayan na
Wow. Thanks to Jocelyn and Matthew for that song, and a reminder that as we continue the struggle for liberation, joy, love, and tenderness are just as important in our fight. And I love Christian's comment up here. I'm going to read it. He said that I love that Filipino love songs are easily relatable to love for country and not just for a single person. And yes, that's the connecting like factor. Like, yes. So thank you for that. Thank you for connecting the two.
Yes, and thank you all to our incredible performers and our visual artists for today. That ends the performance section of Sigwa, a cultural night of remembrance and resistance. And we've had such an amazing lineup that was really rich and diverse. And they really exemplify the rich culture of resistance, our legacy of resistance up until the modern day. So before we move into our Q&A panel, we want to send a final reminder to place your orders for the posters that support Malaya movement and our human rights advocacy work. And it was designed by Killjoy, and the poster shows the people chanting, "Maki baka, wag matakot." And for $40, it includes shipping, and the funds for the project will be a tangible way to support the human rights work of Malaya movement for the Filipino people.
And I wanted to plug in our organization, FXAH, or Filipinx Artists of Houston. So if you are a Filipinx artist living in the Houston area, please join us. Reach us on our Instagram, Filipinx Artists of Houston, or our website, fxahouston.org.
Yes, and if you have the cultural bug, the music bug, and the itch and desire to learn more Filipino revolutionary songs, please place an order for this amazing Filipino revolutionary songbook at tiny.cc/rev/songbook. And as we remember and celebrate our culture of resistance, may we never forget the dark days of Marcos's martial law. And in the honor and legacy of our martyrs, of the powerful people's resistance that ousted a dictatorship, may we continue the struggle under the modern day dictatorship of Duterte. It's important we get organized, that we organize our communities, we organize our families, that we support our kababayans back home in the Philippines by becoming a member of an organization like Malaya Movement. So please join us today. Go to tinyurl.com/joinmalaya. We have chapters all across the country. So you can find a chapter nearby, or even if you'd like, you can start your own chapter. We would love to help you. And if we could go to the next slide. One of our campaigns in the Malaya movement alongside the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines and Kabataan Alliance is the Philippine Human Rights Act, which was just introduced into Congress by Representative Susan Wild alongside 24 other representatives. We have a really important role to play as overseas Filipinos, specifically in the United States, where so many of our tax dollars goes to the armed forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, which commits these atrocious violations against the Filipino people, whether it's the drug war, whether it's targeting activists, land defenders, the very communities that Kadaning from KMP mentioned earlier. It is important that we use our position overseas to demand an end to this. So with the introduction of the Philippine Human Rights Act, it really is asking to cut all security assistance to the Philippines until it can be deemed that none of our tax dollars are going to these crimes, and that those who are perpetuating them are held accountable. So very historic, and it's really made possible by building the mass movement here in the United States for human rights and democracy in the Philippines. So we're gonna play this really short 1-minute video.
Rodrigo Duterte's brutal regime is using the pretext of a so-called anti-terrorism law to ramp up efforts targeting labor organizers, workers, and political opponents. In response to these abuses, I introduced the Philippine Human Rights Act, which would block U.S. funding for police or military assistance to the Philippines, outlining a series of basic criteria which would have to be met in order to resume such funding. Let us stand with the people of the Philippines.
Yes. So I know so many of you made this possible. So thank you all for everyone's contributions. And if you want to learn more, please visit humanrightsph.org. Let's lobby our representatives. Let's continue garnering as much community support to endorse this bill to make it happen.
Awesome. So for the last 10 minutes of our program, we will hear from some of the artists as we engage important questions and participate in critical conversations about the legacies of martial law, the continued stripping of democracy from the Filipino people, and the ongoing resistance of Filipinos in the Philippines, the United States, and all over the world. Our participating artists are Kokoy from Kayumangit Folk Rock, Dominic Dizon, Tabs Ponciano, Andrea Guerrero, and Jome Santos.
Okay, and we do have a prepared set of questions, but of course, if any of you in the audience would like to ask a question, you can direct them to Q&A in our chat. And to open this panel, our first question is, or series of two questions. So it is, what inspired the artists to create such artworks in relation to martial law? And what are the artists' perspectives on repressive legislation by the Duterte administration, like the anti-terror law? So the floor is open. Whoever wants to go first, please unmute yourself and feel free to share some thoughts. And we have a few more questions too.
I don't mind going first.
Go ahead,
This is Kokoy
Kokoy.
Severino. Yeah, Kokoy Severino with Kayumangi Pinoy Rock Band. I actually chose. Sorry, I'm driving right now. I'm trying to find a place to park. But I actually chose the genre of Pinoy rock as my main medium of composition because it was born out of the counterculture of the martial law era. I had an opportunity to talk to Mike Hanopol and Joey Pepe Smith, the two of the founders of the Juan de la Cruz band several years ago, and they were explaining to me that the reason why they started playing Pinoy rock, their style of music, was because they wanted to resist against the prevailing culture of colonial mentality at the time. And so I chose Pinoy rock in order to, number one, honor the legacy of these awesome artists, and to continue and perpetuate the message of Pinoy rock as a form of music that was born out of resistance and political activism. And also, I chose Pinoy rock because as I started to compose music, it's the style that seemed so the most natural to me as a Filipino musician, and so influenced by these pioneers like Mike Hanopol and Joey Pepe Smith and Wally Gonzalez, and that generation of Pinoy musicians way back in the 70s, at the beginning of the martial law era. So.
Thank you so much, Kokoy, for sharing your music and your talent and your love for Pinoy rock and music with us. I'm going to actually toss this question over about what inspired our artists to create art pieces or songs in relation to martial law to Andrea.
Hi. Just want to thank everyone for being here and the Malaya movement for organizing this amazing event. What inspired me was going to art school here in Toronto, and just seeing the absence of anyone who represented my identity or who knew anything about Filipino history. And this collage was based on a project I had to do where we had to go to the archives of the Toronto Public Library. And as I was looking through the archives, like the only evidence of Filipino history that I saw were like natural disasters and the Marcos dictatorship. And I just thought about how there's so much that's hidden about us as a culture. And when I saw that, I was compelled to make a piece that reflected not so much on just why Marcos was a bad dictator, obviously, but to look at the roots of how that's connected. How do we get there? And you see a lot of parallels of how we have people in power who operate like this because of what happens through colonialism. And when you create an imbalance of power that privileges a very small elite group of people, it entices them to be like tentacles of the larger operating colonial system that siphons resources out of the land. And what I find so unique about the Philippines is not only is our land a resource that is stolen from us, but our people are a resource. And our systems, from education systems to the workforce, are structured in a way that the government encourages people to leave the country. So if you think about it, we as people are objectified as a resource to be used by other colonial nations. And I think it's really important to know that history to begin to change the narrative around it.
Nice. Amazing. Yeah, for sure. I hear you about finding it difficult to find like relevant information regarding the Philippines. And so we really have to dig and talk to our elders, listen to other people's, accounts. And it's not usually like academia that's saying it, but actual like witnesses that, bore witness to the injustice that was happening in the Philippines during that time.
Yeah.
So, for our second question, what actions are we taking as Filipinos in the US to help with what's going on in the Philippines? And who would like to answer that?
I think we can direct this one to Tabs.
Philippines, imagine the impact. Imagine how, like the stack will fall, right? That's so much money. And so one of the biggest calls for us and for all of y'all is to engage your legislators. We still need sponsors for the Philippine Human Rights Act. So call them, annoy them, tell them to sponsor the Philippine Human Rights Act in the House of Representatives. We also need a paired senator bill in the Senate. So call them too. But along the way, don't forget, to build the mass movement, to continue to organize, because we've talked about historical revisionism tonight. We see the dangers of historical revisionism, and through organizing, we can really combat that. And educating our community is a key part of organizing. So that was a lot.
Yes, thank you so much, Tabs. And imagine how, we're also in the middle of a pandemic here in the United States. The unemployment rates are skyrocketing. Families are having to scramble for childcare. Students are attending school in person. The numbers of cases continue to rise here in the United States. Imagine how much money could go to the social infrastructure for the people here in the United States who are also facing the brunt of state repression, of state violence, especially our Black community here with the recent killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. There really is an uprising and a powerful people's movement brewing here in the United States. And our struggles are really interconnected. So imagine how much can go towards that. So with that said, I would like to direct this question to Dominique. What are the parallels and what is happening in the United States and in the Philippines?
Yep. So I think one of the big ones is police brutality. I think police brutality has been happening in the Philippines for a long time, that it's almost like, it just happens. But more and more, it's like being exposed with what's happening here in the US and also with our president. Both presidents have really done not a good job at all with taking care of its people during this global pandemic, like using money for other things, and instead of putting together, mobilizing instead of supporting like hospitals and doctors and helping the poor, they're putting together laws like the anti-terror bill and stuff like that that doesn't really benefit all the people. Yeah. And then there's also class prejudice that's happening a lot, I feel like, and there's just this major divide in the people, a political divide that's happening in the people.
Thank you for that. So here's the last question for anybody who wants to answer. What is the role of art in guiding social change and assisting the movement? And can everyone share their social media so we can follow their work? You guys can put that in the chat. And let's see. Yeah, okay. Anybody?
And maybe Jo May, you could kick us off with that question since you haven't been able to speak on our panel yet.
Okay. Yeah, so there's this quote that floats around, about how political art is to make the revolution irresistible. And so relating that to our movement, to the Malaya movement, I don't believe art in itself is a form of organizing, but a tool for organizers. And so as we utilize art to capture and galvanize the spirit of the masses, it's to pull them in and really to inspire them, to let them know that they can use their talent, use their work. Like even in my organization, we have graphic designers. All they want to do is design. That's great. And they've been able to make great work for Malaya SF. And so the purpose of using art as a tool for organizing is our task as organizers to really inspire that for them.
That's awesome. I just also wanted to share, like, art evokes like a part of the human soul that like no other thing can. So like the part of art, like what's beautiful about art is like when it's a song, when it's a poem, when it's dance, when it's a picture, like it touches the part of the soul that no other thing can. And when you're affected by it, it moves you to do something and moves you to action. And I think artists should keep making art about, you know, what's happening right now, because like it touches people and in a way that like no other thing can. Yeah, it makes you want to talk about it. Like if you see or encounter art, it makes you want to talk about it with other people. It makes you, it's like beauty demands replication, right? Like you want to talk about it. You want to share it with other people. Like it completes, like sharing it with other people completes the experience of art. So I think art is super important in this movement. I mean, in history, like art lasts and it marks history. So yeah, art is very important.
I just want to piggyback off of what Dominique said, because I feel that there's such an important role art holds, especially for all of us who are trying to get in touch with the collective grief that we haven't been able to access. And there's something about art that humanizes the experience of what you're going through, and it allows you to feel these emotions that on a daily basis you just have to repress to survive. And we need to acknowledge these feelings to be able to make, like, to be able to dream together, to be able to envision a better future for ourselves, and to really find each other in that, and to be able to really take action off of those feelings. So thanks for sharing that.
Amazing, y'all. Art is the storyteller of the times for sure. Every movement has its art. We all have the things that pull at our heartstrings to get us to move and get out there and organize. And art is that tool that was mentioned earlier. That was Sigwa, a cultural night of remembrance and resistance. Thank you all for coming. Maraming salamat and showing up tonight and expressing solidarity with the human rights and democracy of the Filipino people through the creative medium of art and performance.
Yes, and it's been so wonderful being your MCs for tonight. We hope we were able to move everybody to a place of action. And once again, my name is Julie from the Malaya Movement National Secretariat.
And I am Royal of the Filipinx Artists of Houston, and we've been your MCs this evening. This has been such a pleasure and honor to serve you and the Filipino people. And so the struggle continues. Makibaka, huwag matakot.
Yes, makibaka, wag matakot. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.